My dad is a big-time Mormon. He's descendant from Brigham Young.
Hey.
We are rolling.
Here we are. Welcome back to Backsliders, the podcast. Today we have our friend Paul Young.
Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Thanks for joining us on our couch.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
It's comfy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a mattress couch.
Yeah, our friends
That's why we got
have
it.
slept here.
Great.
Yeah. My mother's even slept here.
Has she really?
Yeah.
Oh, my mom too.
Oh,
Yes,
shit.
Yeah.
This is a mother-in-law couch.
Nice. I like it.
Very homey.
Yeah.
So we just want to talk to you about your spiritual background. And,
Nothing too deep.
Nothing, yeah.
Okay.
Surface level.
No, I mean, we do want to get deep. I'm
I'll
just
get deep.
being ironic.
So where are you from, Paul?
I was born and raised in Fort Collins, Colorado.
Colorado. Beautiful.
Yeah, it is pretty there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you grew up with your mom.
Yes.
Mostly, if I
Yes,
remember
with my mom.
correctly. Yeah.
Had a couple stepdads along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not good guys.
Not all of them.
There were two of them
Yeah.
at separate times.
Right.
Yeah. My second stepdad was a heroin addict.
Wow.
And he'd just gotten out of prison and moved into our trailer from a halfway house. Mm-hmm. And he
Wow.
was the best stepdad. He was my favorite one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
the other
saying
one
a lot.
wasn't great. Yeah.
Do you stay in touch?
With my stepdad? No, the last we heard about him is when I was in college. My mom read a police blotter that was in Boulder, and she called me about it. And my stepdad had been arrested because he was at a 7-Eleven in Boulder, Colorado, and he was trying to convince the guy that worked at the 7-Eleven to trade a 12-pack for the Jeep outside that he was driving.
Oh, wow.
And the guy refused because he was probably a little, freaked out by it.
Mm-hmm.
So my stepdad stole the 12-pack,
Okay.
and then he was arrested, and he had some other stuff on his record. So apparently he went back to jail.
He really needed that 12-pack.
Yeah.
I think it's a good deal.
Powerful negotiator.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
wrong place.
That's where I learned how to do what I do from him.
Yeah. You
I'm
got a
sure
couple
you did.
Jeeps.
Yeah.
Wow. So was your mom religious ever throughout those years?
My mom, imagine, the mind of a 6-year-old girl combined with David Lynch.
Well,
And that's my mom's orientation to religion. It's like part fairy tale, part very dark, sort of loosely in the Christian tradition.
Yeah.
She lives in a small cabin in Montana now, and she has 37 portraits of Jesus throughout the cabin, but
Okay.
it's like 80% ironic and 20% really sincere.
yeah.
Because she really does believe in love and goodness, and it makes her feel safe. And so, but she thinks it's funny and is also very sincere about it.
Yeah.
My mom's actually a very intelligent, very deep person, and she can access her own spirituality, innocence, youth really, really easily.
That's
And
great.
it makes it hard for her to kind of be in the world sometimes because she's very sensitive. It's
Yeah.
one of the things I love the most about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's an amazing woman, my mom.
Does she have a personal practice of getting there? Or it's just like this thing she's developed or learned?
I
or?
think it's just kind of her resting state, So I think it's actually
That's the
pretty hard
Lynchian.
for her. The Lynchian part is that she's like with my stepdad's invited a lot of really hardcore darkness into her life.
Right.
And so just underneath the fairy tale is the possibility of real darkness and destruction and sadness.
Yeah.
And her life has been a combination of both. And my childhood was a combination of both. So she has this dreamy fairy tale way of being in the world. And at the same time, if you think of Blue Velvet, for example, it's so present in that. At the same time, there were these demons that were sometimes directly in our world, sometimes right around the periphery. Yeah, so she has both, and that's how she kind of lives. She actually said one of the wisest, most profound things to me about faith, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. She said to me, and she told me she was only telling me now because she only felt like I could finally get it. And she said to me, Paul, faith is like a bungee cord. She goes, if you know that cord is not going to break, that fall is exhilarating. She goes, but even if some tiny part of you thinks that cord will break, the exact same fall is terrifying. Ooh. And I was like, wow, Mom, what the fuck? Like, so my mom is a deep, amazing woman.
What's the fall in the
life?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just life.
Yeah.
Because there's so much you can't control, right? So, I spent a lot of my young adult life believing I could control my environment and believing in my own willpower. And the first kind of chink in the armor, the first thing that really made me surrender was having a child. So when we had our daughter, Kat, I loved her so much, and it was so much bigger than me that I didn't know what to do. I didn't want her to ever be in a car or leave the house. So when she was a baby, I didn't ever want anyone to drive her anywhere because I was terrified that something would happen to her. And I finally realized I can't, yes, I can try to keep her safe, but I can't control that. And so that was the first time I really surrendered to a kind of love that was bigger than myself as an adult.
I think about that a lot because we don't know if we want to have kids or not, but how challenging that must be when you become a parent, because it's inevitable that your kid will experience pain and hurt. But everything in you will want to stop that. Yeah. And that's got to be like a huge process of surrendering the idea that you could control that, because you can't.
Well, and it's profoundly respectful to the child if you allow them to have their own pain rather than try to protect them from it. Yeah. Again, you want to keep them safe. So I'm not talking about being reckless, but when Kat was 7, maybe she was 8, and her favorite teacher, who she was very close to and who she admired so much, had given her these 2 bracelets, and they were like Kat's most treasured possessions. She and I had gone to eat. We went for a walk afterward, and when we got back, when we drove back home, the bracelets were gone. So she knew that she'd somehow lost them in the restaurant, or maybe she took her sweatshirt off when we were going for a walk, and we went back and spent a couple hours trying to find them, and we couldn't. We got back home, and Kat sat on the floor. She was uncontrollably crying, and she said the words, "I've lost them forever, and there's nothing I can do about it." And she was experiencing irrevocable loss. Like she was actually articulating it as that. And so much of me wanted to say, we'll get you new bracelets. I'll call the teacher. And then I just said to her instead, you're right. And that's sad. And she just kept crying. And then she cried it out. And then she walked upstairs, and she was okay the next day. But I have a great relationship with my daughter. And one of the reasons why I believe I do is I'm willing for her to experience her own pain. It's actually really respectful to let her name it for what it is and experience it, rather than to try to explain it away or reframe it so that it doesn't feel as painful. Yeah. So another example is when she was 8, she had a principal named Miss Spellman, and she comes home one day from school and she goes, "Dad, Miss Spellman hates me." And I go, "Well, why do you say that?" And she gave me like 5 really good examples. And I was like, I think you're right. I think Miss Spellman doesn't like you. Yeah. And I go, I had teachers that didn't like me when I was growing up a lot, actually. And I said, "So how does it make you feel?" And she thought about it for a second, and she goes, "Not everyone's going to like me."
What?
Yeah. And I think kids are that wise, but the adult in us who's been kind of badly trained over the years wants to say, "Of course Miss Spellman likes you." No, you're wrong. You're just misinterpreting her behavior. Right. And it's like, no, Miss Spellman doesn't like her. Like, my daughter drove the principal crazy. She pissed her off all the time. And it's actually honoring her to let her deal with the truth of what that is. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, not like has a lot of connotations that you can unpack, but what she's basically saying is like, this is a person that I don't get along with. Right. We don't know. And so, I think it's respectful to let someone have their own pain.
Yeah.
Is this style of parenting, is it like what your mom gave you, or is this something that...
it's very similar to what my mom gave me, and what my mom was an amazing mother, even as she made other mistakes. The bottom line is she was an amazing mom. And the reason why is she was always tried to be honest with me, and she really was curious about what I thought. Like genuinely interested in what I thought. And I knew that I could persuade her to my way of thinking. Sometimes when I was just trying to get my own way, but sometimes when I was just trying to express myself. And so I've tried to be that kind of dad with Kat, which is always tell the truth and be really curious and really own in your heart that it is not my job to decide who she should be or even what she should want. It's my job to love her and be really curious about what unfolds from her heart about who she is and what she wants, and to support that.
Yeah.
You know, now again, if she's being self-destructive or doing something where she's hurting herself, and as an adult, I have perspective on that. Of course, I want to try to stop that from happening. But I think people get into jeopardy in parenting relationships or in romantic relationships and marriages if they start trying to decide what that other person should be like. It's really tempting. I used to do it in romantic relationships in really insidious, subtle ways. And I really try not to do that now. Yeah.
Like an I love you if, or
just more like, I used to, it's funny, it's so stupid when I think of it now, but I used to think in my marriage, I'm now divorced. This may be one of the reasons why I'm divorced, is that if there was a disconnect between us, that she just didn't understand me enough. Because if she did, then she would agree or she would do the thing that I wanted to do. And I thought my job was to convince her and help articulate myself. And if I did, then she'd like want what I wanted.
Exactly.
And that is not at all.
Right.
You know, the work and the job is to really just be present and curious and allow for there to be difference and disagreement. And when I'm uncomfortable with it, I got to deal with that. You know what I mean? It is not my job to try to get the person to change so that I'm now comfortable.
Yeah.
That's not my job. But I used to think it was my job.
Sounds like
religion with opposed to other religions in some regards. So like, I feel like a lot of times people are trying to convince other people to believe how they believe.
right.
And
Like it's threatening to have somebody believe differently than
Right.
you, instead of being curious about why they believe and not have your beliefs be threatened by them.
yeah.
Yeah, I think all religions get into trouble when they try to lay exclusive claim to the truth.
Yes, and they all want to.
Yeah. Yeah,
We
I
got
think
it
that's
right.
where the false prophets things comes in, because I think that underlying any kind of deep spirituality is a humility of not knowing,
Right.
you know?
I don't know if that's like a real like cornerstone that most people like. I never heard that growing up. It was definitely like, we know what's right, and this is why other people are wrong. Let's try to proselytize and share the truth, and then they can come to know the truth, and then all is well.
Right.
Which is very like, I guess, egotistical or
Yeah.
self-righteous.
Do you think there's any proselytizing that is good?
Maybe pointing to love. I don't know if you can demand love, but you can point to love. But I don't know if that's proselytizing. Maybe just living as close to a loving life as you can. I don't know if that's considered proselytizing.
I'm sober because
Yeah.
I used to really love drugs and alcohol
Yeah.
too much. And I got sober through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, which I was very judgy about before I went there. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I
Yeah.
just was. And but I've learned a lot from that process. And one of the things that AA teaches, which it is a spiritual program,
Yeah.
you know, it believes that if you can help somebody have a spiritual experience, that they then won't want to drink. They'll be relieved of the obsession to use drugs and alcohol. And so it tries to facilitate a spiritual experience. But one of the things it talks about is attraction and not promotion, basically. And basically what that means is live a spiritual life, and those around you will see it, and they may sort of pick and choose what they like about it, but it's not you saying, here's what you should do. It's just like, look, here's what I did. The other thing that's great about the AA tradition is to be in AA, you have to have screwed up so badly. It's very hard for people to be self-righteous in AA, because to get into AA, you have to have screwed up your life so much, and you've had to have lost all self-control. And so there's a humility that's inherent to the community. Of course, there are people that are in there and their egos grow and they think they know better. But I think it's a really great system where people who are there knew where they came from, and their bottom was so low that it's really hard for them to get judgy about other people.
Yeah. Because like one of the tenets is you have to admit that you're powerless over this thing.
That's the first thing you got to do. Yeah.
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 It's really like the concept of grace. Like I'm going to butcher the quote, but in Corinthians it says, in your weakness, my strength will be made perfect. And Paul has a thorn in his leg. And what I take that to mean is that in that kind of vulnerability and weakness, all that one can do is be aware of your dependence on something larger. And that's what the first step of AA is. It is, I'm out of control. My willpower doesn't work. I'm tiny. I'm small. I can't help myself. I got to rely on something larger. And that's where grace comes in, because in relying on something larger, there's hope, because what's kind of perfect about addiction is it's all about feeding nature. It's all about feeding natural desire to a point where you're destroying yourself. And so the only way out of it is a faith in something larger, where you're not listening to your own impulses, instincts, and desires. You like have to listen to something else. Yeah. And it feels at the time incredibly counterintuitive and crazy. It does. Yeah.
It sounds like you have like a good relationship with Christianity. Like both you and your mom have been able to take like the good tenets of Christianity, which is like unconditional love, grace, you being your own teacher. That's what it sounds like when I hear you talking. Do you did your mom teach you a religion?
No,
not
at all. I wasn't raised with any religion at all. I never went to church. My dad is a big time Mormon. He's descended from Brigham Young, and so he's from a really powerful Mormon family. And I read secular texts about Mormonism that were critical of Mormonism, because I was really mad at it because my dad wasn't around, so I was really pissed off.
Yeah.
But I was never raised with that at all, and I don't believe in a lot of what it believes. The thing about the Christian tradition that I think is beautiful, and I'm going to say it simply, and it's going to sound a little cliche, but it's just that God is love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? It's just like love and compassion. And I had an experience with my dad over Thanksgiving that really speaks to it. So my dad and I were estranged. I grew up in a really poor way. I was often in danger. And so I was really upset and resentful that he didn't help me out very much when I was a kid. Really hurt and really pissed off. As an adult, I got over it and it didn't feel a lot of anger anymore. And he sent an email to me, and we talked maybe once a year. And he said, I would like to discuss my will with you. Can we talk this weekend?
Wow.
And I thought, he's going to tell me that he's giving me nothing. And, maybe this is an opportunity for me to tell him the truth of how I feel about my childhood and his lack of participation and help. And, I was kind of preparing an honest pushback, right? And then I went and saw It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, the Mr. Rogers movie. And if you've seen it, it's all about love and compassion. And Mr. Rogers had been a pastor, and it's about the daily practice of putting your heart in a place of love, compassion, and curiosity. And there's a father-son story that is at the center of that movie. And I was really inspired by the movie. I saw it with Kat, my daughter, and my mom. And afterward, I said, you know what? I bet this call is really hard for my dad to make. I actually don't know what he's going to say. And at least he's making the call. So why don't I just love on him and be curious? And we called, and he said he was going to leave me what amounts to about 5% of his assets. He's not a wealthy guy, and it's fine, and I'm fine financially. And he has another son who's my half brother. And he was defensive and nervous and was stumbling over his words. And in his defensiveness, kind of, claiming that he helped more when I was a kid than he did. But I realized he just feels bad, and it's just a hard call for him to make. And I thanked him for leaving me anything. And I told him I was doing great. And we talked about my journey through getting sober, and I had amnesia at one point, as you guys know, which was a very transformative experience, and how I developed a really active relationship with a higher power, or with God. And we wound up talking for 45 minutes, and we had the deepest, most loving, honest conversation I'd ever had with him in my life. And it was simply because I was approaching the call from a different spirit, which was just thinking, this is a hard call for him to make. And he has tried to have a relationship with me in his own way. And if I just look at it from a place of love, it was a totally different experience than if I was like being honest and letting him know how I felt or whatever about the past. And what was interesting about it too is I was telling my girlfriend, I felt like I was leading, like I was a leader in the call. Like I wasn't needing him to be dad. I almost felt like I was playing that role, but not in a way that I resented it at all. Like just in a way where he just needed me to kind of embrace him for us to be able to have a good conversation about it. His health is also fine. He's just retiring, which is why he's doing his will. But anyway.
Yeah.
So that's an experience of that for me.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
And like very challenging to practice. I mean, at least personally, because I have a complicated relationship with my dad too. And it's hard as the child to, in those moments, have empathy and shift your perspective from needing something from your parent to just loving them and seeing them as like a complicated person.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
With their own set of...
Yeah, exactly.
flaws.
And he's a really good man, my dad.
Yeah.
Just like my mom. My mom's amazing. She's like, she's an amazing person.
Yeah.
So I lucked out with who my parents are, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's true. Yeah.
I think your perspective is really good too. I think that maybe you have an ability to frame, and I don't know if this has always been the case, but frame things from a way of gratitude and empathy more than before, or is
Definitely more than before. Yeah. I used to feel like I had to protect myself by being in charge of the justice in my life.
Whoa. Yeah.
So
we can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was how I'd protect myself. So if I felt like somebody had done something that was wrong, quote, wrong to me, I felt like it was my job to punish, you know, or it was my job to make sure it didn't happen again. And, you know, one can set boundaries and protect oneself, but I realized like I have no idea. My human mind and experience is way too small to actually know, you know, it's just too small. You know, my perspective is way too limited. And so there's so much I don't know about my dad and my mom, but what I do know is they love me. Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of all I need to know at this point.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah,
that's the only part that's going to serve you.
Yeah. And but it comes from a really authentic place for me now. Like, you know, I won't go into the story now, but, you know, 7 years ago, I had amnesia. I had this event where I had amnesia for 3 days. So I had no identity. I didn't even know what a movie or TV show was. I didn't understand how money functioned. I had to be introduced to my own mother. And without the context and story, what was left was I had this very innocent, curious, raw perspective on the world, and living that way for 3 days. And I remember the episode now kind of cracked my heart open. It made me go a little bit crazy for a few years. I didn't work for a couple of years. It took me a long time to recover, but it cracked my heart open. And in doing that, I had no choice but to face the vulnerability that we have as humans. You know, when you love, one of the things I say, and friends give me shit about it because they think it's dark, but it's actually not dark. It's just true. But when you choose love, you choose loss. You just do. You die, they die, relationships end. That's an insanely vulnerable fact. When we love, we expose ourselves to pain. But what's the alternative to not love? Like, that's not good. I mean, the alternative that I lived pre-amnesia was I just tried to I believe that if I could control my environment enough and in really subtle ways, I thought I could control people loving me. I thought I could earn their love in a way that would never go away, you know? And that's actually a manipulation, trying to be that good so that people don't go away. And
it's also exhausting.
It's exhausting, and it's also bullshit.
Yeah.
Because you can't control that stuff. And it's a disrespect. It's a disrespectful approach with any other human because you're trying to deny them their autonomy. You know, so so I was able to accept my vulnerability post amnesia, which I really fought kicking and screaming, but now I'm able to do it and life's way better. And I think it somehow opens the door to gratitude for me. You know, I don't know how exactly, but I think it does.
Yeah, it sounds like you just got like wiped clean.
I did.
Like reset your slate and got to like...
It's like reformatting a computer.
Yeah, because we're all telling ourselves stories.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we learn stories that are unhealthy.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you got to be like, okay, well, what's the real story or what's the new story?
Yeah.
And shift it to a story filled with gratitude and...
Well, and I've learned that, you know, I still tell stories. And my brain still makes up stories about every situation. And so often it's wrong.
Yeah.
So often it's wrong. But what I would do pre-amnesia is I would take action based on the story.
Quickly.
Yeah. So I would like say, okay, this person feels that way about me and this is what's going to happen. So I'm going to do this. So I would never... And then I would tell myself, oh, because I intervened in this way, A, B, and C happened, or this proved that this person is this person I can't trust.
Right.
And when I learned I don't know, then I would be willing to do nothing. And then when I would do nothing, I would then discover that I was wrong, because what would occur with me doing nothing would be different than my prediction. People would surprise me by how good they are or different they are. It was just different than my prediction. And
was it just that time would allow it to...
It's just I didn't intervene. So let's say I decided you're trying to get me, like you're trying to get me to say something that I don't want to say in this interview. And then so I would like go, well, tell me about your dad, Micah. You know what I mean? And then we might get in like an uncomfortable conversation, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of doing that, if I had that story in my head, I wouldn't do anything. I would know, okay, this is a story. It's probably wrong. I'm just going to like be here in this interview.
Yeah. We're not good at the gotchas.
Yeah, exactly. But whatever you would do would not be a gotcha. And I would realize like, oh, that crazy story was wrong.
Yeah.
But I would never know that if I took action based on the false story.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because the action would change the dynamic. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I would never know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it totally does. I started therapy again this week. Like I found a new therapist.
Oh yeah.
And so
you think they're going to be good?
It seems like she's giving me some good vibes.
Based on the first session.
Based on the first session, she like does not come across as like textbook, which is really important to me.
Did you talk about Micah?
No, I mean, I mentioned that I was married. And
oh yeah.
Just a mention. I got to mention.
What was the
Just an
tone?
honorable mention.
What was the tone of it when you said
She
you
was
were
like,
married?
"How's your marriage?" And I was like, "It's pretty good." Like he goes to therapy. Like I feel like he works on himself, so that's good. But it just made me think that, because one of the reasons I'm going to therapy is to work on my triggers, because when I had some shit happen to me when I was younger, and sometimes I will get triggered and immediately like be a total asshole to Micah, or be like, because I feel very unsafe, and I've yet to master like taking some time to like take control or take inventory of what's happening.
Right.
Taking that step back and
Yeah.
And it's just cool to hear examples of like how powerful that can be when you do take some time.
Yeah.
And I think we both, whether or not we have biological programming or nurture programming, we learned from probably very quickly reactive, or I can speak for myself, parents, snap judgments, emotional quick shifts. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we
trying to unwind some of that.
That's good.
both of our moms were bipolar.
Oh, yeah.
So there wasn't a lot of stability in either of our homes, and like
Yeah.
not really a lot of coping mechanisms passed down that were healthy.
Yeah.
So we've both noticed that we tend to we started repeating the things that we saw, which are very unhealthy.
Yeah. I have a question. So do you think it's mostly a good thing for your marriage or mostly a hard thing for your marriage? I guess good and hard aren't necessarily opposed, but a good thing for your marriage or a hard thing for your marriage that you have that shared common background of having moms who are bipolar?
Oh, man.
Yeah. No, it's something we talk about all the time because I think it's both.
Yeah.
But when it's bad, it's really bad.
Yeah.
And when it's good, I think that Micah and I are a good match because it's like we amplify each other's shit, which makes us have to work on it.
Yeah.
We're pretty good at recognizing it. We're pretty good at dealing with it. Like we had to walk on eggshells a lot, so we know how to do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are adamant about not doing that. Like I will not live my life walking on eggshells.
Yeah, no,
you don't make me do that. I won't make you do that.
Yeah.
We've got to get this out of us. You know, it's like
totally.
But it's not easy, so it is hard, but it is good.
Yeah.
But the thing that one of the things I'm most grateful about you, grateful from, what am I trying to say?
Grateful for
what I'm grateful for that you've brought into this relationship is just this desire to do therapy. Because Mike was doing therapy when I met him, and I had always been like a little afraid of it.
And then I wanted to do marriage therapy or marriage counseling before we got married.
Oh, that's kind of smart. Did you do it?
Yeah, we did. I didn't really like the therapist.
No, yeah.
She laughed at me too much.
She thought he was so funny. She was totally on his side.
It wasn't a side thing.
You can't charm the therapist. That's not fair.
That's my fault. Yeah, no, I think it was. I think I tried. Well, I make my personal therapist laugh sometimes too, actually. But she tells me that sometimes she prevents herself from laughing because she doesn't want to laugh, but sometimes she can't resist it.
Oh shit!
Now you're just bragging.
I know that's like a really satisfying laugh.
But
you can't even help it.
I'm not trying. I think I'm just like sometimes surprising her the things I'm willing to say.
I see. Yeah, I asked this question because I'm not going to go into the details of this either, but I recently decided I'm going to marry this woman that I'm seeing right now. Yeah.
Is she?
Wait, does she know?
Yeah, she knows.
Okay. Or is she finding out right now by listening to our podcast?
No. She knows. She knows. We haven't officially gotten engaged yet, but
amazing.
But
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's exciting. So but one of the things, I mean, we had been together for a while and then we got back together and so that's what we're doing and I'm excited about it. But anyway, we share, like you two both have bipolar moms, we share certain things in our background where we both came from really small families that were a little bit broken in ways, you know? Mm-hmm. And so we were sort of wondering ourselves, like, is it good because we can bond over that? Is it just an extra obstacle and hard because both of us are kind of having to learn how to do it, you know? Mm-hmm. Although I am 50 now and I've kind of figured some stuff out, but still it doesn't come as naturally, I think.
Yeah.
And, but it kind of doesn't matter because we're just like crazy in love with each other. So we're just going to do what, you know, to me, it's like, yeah, it's kind of academic.
Yeah.
Because, at this point, being my age, being 50 and having lived some life, that kind of love is just really rare and you should just go for it when you have it.
Right.
It's just, and then you figure it out together. Yeah.
And as long as you're with someone who's willing to figure things out and to, you know, work on the shit, then it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes we both wish like, oh, I wish
you
one
had
of
a
our
perfect family.
Yeah, one of our families were intact or like there was some sort of stability or maybe one of us had some sort of passion other than creativity.
Yeah, that's
so we could have some stability.
Yeah.
But then
we were a banker.
Yeah, I wish you were making a lot of money and I could just play. Yeah.
But we wouldn't be each other.
Earn it as much, you know?
And we wouldn't connect as deeply because we wouldn't be able to understand each other.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's my belief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's hard. Like, I have a question for you guys. So we may have already talked about this, but when you met the two of you, how quickly did you know, holy shit, I'm in love with this person?
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Micah says, because he saw me on stage first. We connected on Facebook. We got cast in a play together in Austin, but then he wanted to come see me perform before he decided if he took the role or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So his story is that he could tell when he saw me on stage that
I did say to myself, like, I'm gonna marry that girl.
Yeah.
And I never said that before.
Yeah.
But it was just like how, like, in that same moment, I was like, yeah, sure, no, like, it's probably not gonna work out, but like, that girl's amazing and beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to definitely get to know her.
Yeah.
But
Good
then
job.
we finally
I think
we hung out during the course of the play, and I was angling to date her for sure.
Oh, wow. Did you know?
Yeah, and I really wanted to be friends. I was like 21. I was like, I don't want a boyfriend. I'm not dating right now. I just want to be friends. But we immediately became like best friends. We just connected on so many levels that by the time the play was over, I was like, I never want to not be around you.
Yeah.
And then I do remember one dinner. I think it was like the first time I kind of like tricked her. It wasn't the first date I tricked her into. Maybe the second date I tricked her.
You can't say tricked into dates.
I mean, call it what it is.
You know, I mean, it was just like, hey, you want to go see a play and then go to dinner afterwards? Like,
we weren't calling it dates because I was like, we're friends.
Like, yeah, we can hang out. Yeah, I won't date you till after the show is what she would say. I was like, okay,
sly little
this is what
snake,
we're doing. Yeah.
My God.
Let's go run lines and then go to dinner.
And then go to dinner. Wow.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I would drive down like 30 minutes to go see her. And our dogs are going nuts.
That's okay.
I would drive down 30 minutes.
We're talking about love.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like, why we want some?
Yeah, exactly.
I would drive down to go see her, and I took her out to this dinner place at a really fancy restaurant called the River Pub.
Oh, shit.
It was not fancy.
Fancy.
Oh, is it? Okay.
It was outdoor. It was a great place.
In a college town.
But I remember there just being like this moment where like I felt like an electrical shock. And I could see that she had felt it at the same time too. I don't know I don't think anything specific was said. It just was like we got to this point where we were like so nervous and like giddy and like vibrating.
I get it.
I felt like I was
I can't
vibrating.
explain it.
I totally get it. I completely understand.
It just felt like all of a sudden, like an
you almost
acknowledgement.
feel sick, you know. But
I
but
completely understand when
you're like, oh God, this is forever, and I don't know if I'm ready for forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I reconnected with Kathryn, the woman that I'm going to marry, I reached out to her. We've been broken up for a couple years, and I was like, "Can we have lunch?" And I wasn't sure if she'd be willing to because I'd broken up with her, and she said yes. And within about 20 minutes of sitting down, we had that exact feeling that you're describing.
Yeah,
Whoa.
This buzzing, physical. Like
otherworldly.
Yeah, otherworldly.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, it's happening again. And she goes, I know. Like, because we had that experience before, and we wound up spending 5 hours together, just like hanging out. And then it was like, oh shit, am I ready for this? And then it was like, what do you mean, am I ready for this? Like, this is what you wish for.
Right.
This is what you wish for.
Yeah.
Even though it's terrifying.
That's why you're here.
And you'll never be.
It's literally why you're on the earth. Yeah.
And what is ready? And who's ever ready?
Yeah.
Does ready exist?
Yeah. It doesn't.
No.
Yeah.
There's levels of readiness, but ready is, again, not to use a cliche word, but ready is surrender, where you're just like surrender to the love. You're just like, this is what it is, man. I'm in. So that's it.
That's so fascinating. Nobody's ever confirmed this like weird vibrating thing.
You know, it's interesting. Kathryn and I talk about like, has anyone else experienced this? It's really cool to know that you guys have experienced it, because it's really profound and really, really real. And when it happens with us, it
still happens.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's a shared experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll have a shared, and one of us will say, this I just felt, and they'll be like, me too. So it's almost like the experience exists and we both step into it.
Yeah, like you step into this energy.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Yeah.
Being present with each other.
Like the degree to which it's precisely shared is totally mysterious and miraculous and wonderful.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It almost to me feels like an acknowledgement of souls that extends beyond like this experience,
For sure.
like this time.
For sure.
It's almost like, oh shit, like this, we have known each other before.
Oh yeah.
I told her, I was like, because we eventually talked about it, but probably not that night. I was like, I think that was the first time like I could relate to the idea of like star-crossed lovers that I'd always like written off as like, that's not real.
Yeah.
Like soulmates.
100%. Yeah, we're soulmates, and yeah, it is. It feel like we call them magical moment. Kathryn and I, magical moments or timeless moments, and we'll have these moments. We can name them, like we have names for them because there have been many of them. Where even just the other night we were like, we like put our heads together and we were hugging, and our heads just came together this way. And then I leaned back and I said, I just had one. And she goes, me too. And we call them timeless moments because you feel like you're outside of time.
Yeah.
And it feels like a forever moment that almost has a mythical quality. Yeah. So it's amazing. Yeah. I don't even know what it means except that it's pretty awesome.
And that it's shared is like
It's shared.
so
Yeah.
special.
I know we were talking about how much it would suck if one was experiencing it and not the other. It would just
And
be
there's like,
creepy.
nah.
Oh, you're stalking me. Yeah.
I don't feel
I gotta be around you for this
I think
feeling.
You're nice. Yeah. Exactly.
You're fine.
Yeah. We're Adam and Eve right now. No, I'm Kathryn and you're just a weird guy. Yeah.
Is there a do y'all meditate in any kind of like Eastern practice way?
I did transcendental meditation for a while, but I haven't been meditating recently.
Yeah. But does it feel like this third eye kind of thing?
Meditating?
No, well,
Oh, the experience we share together?
yeah, well, at least that one.
It feels it
feels better than
our relationship to time changes. Like
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
So time, it feels no longer linear. It feels like we've stepped kind of outside of this world into a different realm. You know, I don't mean to sound too like hippy dippy and hokey about it, but it is what it feels like.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just feels like an incredibly deep, important connection that is amazing and can be a little bit scary.
Yeah, intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
We also can hang out, you know what I mean? Like laugh. And
You're not
stuff.
always
It's not like we're always doing that
buzzing.
shit. Yeah. It's not like
not
magic all the time. Like,
floating.
we can hang out. We were skiing in Aspen and we were
Yeah.
like having fun and it was great.
Yeah.
You know, but
I'm really happy for you.
oh, thank you. Yeah.
Because one of the last times we hung out, you were like, looking for
Looking
that
for
love.
love in all the
Looking for love.
wrong places. Isn't that song? Yeah. No, I know. And it was always kind of right in front of my face because I've known her for like 4 years.
wow.
wow.
Yeah. 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're
I'm sure
very
you'll meet her.
welcome.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah. She's a spiritual lady.
Very cool. Did
Yeah.
you meet her in a spiritual environment?
No,
No.
not at all.
Yeah.
But I knew I loved her the first time I met her. Like,
Aw.
it was a crazy connection. That was our first magical moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did y'all
Magical
speak of
moment
that
to you.
one at that time or
At that time, we were both like, holy shit, what's going on right now? But she had a boyfriend and we were meeting in a context where it wasn't a date or something like that.
Right.
So it was, so we were friends for a couple of years. And then, there's a Hemingway quote that is always, used incorrectly, but I love the incorrect use of it, which is about great love, which is it happens slowly at first and then all at once. And that's exactly what happened with Kathryn and me. It was slowly at first and then all at once. But Hemingway was actually talking about bankruptcy.
Oh my God.
Which happens slowly first and all at once. But people often
use it for the
use
good?
it. You say that he was talking about love, so I'm just gonna like go with the wrong use of it because
It's way better.
It's way better. Yeah.
Way more
It's way better
positive.
than
Yeah.
Bankruptcy.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
I do want to ask the experience 7 years ago was kind of a spiritual experience.
It was definitely spiritual. It was a spiritual experience.
Did it lead you to a connection with Christianity, or did Christianity exist before for you, or a while after feeling an experiencing and wanting to find kind of?
I don't identify as a Christian person, but I love a lot about Christianity. And I recently read The Second Mountain by David Brooks, who's a New York Times columnist, and I really relate. I feel like we're on the same journey, he and I. And he says that he is both Jewish and Christian. His culture, he's a Jewish man, but he also identifies with a lot of the beliefs and the concept of grace in Christianity, and that concept of love. And I just read the book and I really related to that. So I read a lot of stuff that is about God and about human connection and why are we here.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I'm fascinated with Jesus. I honestly have no idea what I believe about him being incarnated. You know what I mean? That he,
right.
I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough. Another writer.
What does it matter?
I don't know. I know some people think it matters quite a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. For some people, it's all that matters. Yeah. So, but another author that I really respond to is a guy named Christian Wyman, which I talked to you guys about, and he wrote a book called My Bright Abyss, which is his story of finding God, and he found it through a great love. So, like you guys had your experience, and I've had and am having mine. Loving someone that much, loving my daughter Kat that much, it just brings you face to face with the concept of God, or that there's a loving design underneath or amidst or everywhere, as it relates to why we're here. It's hard to maintain that faith when you think about some of the really horrible things that go on in the world, but yeah.
What do you think, or do you have thoughts about an afterlife, or what happens when we're done here?
I love the St. Francis prayer. And it's like, Lord, make me a channel of thy peace. Where there's hatred, let me bring love. And one of the things is, it's better to love than to be loved. It's better to forgive than, it's better to forgive than to be forgiven. So it's a prayer, and it's a poem of paradox. And the last line is, and it is by dying that we awaken to eternal life. And because in the prayer, every other line is true, you can know it in this life, and the paradox of every other line is exactly true. That prayer makes me believe in eternal life because all the other paradoxes are true. I also believe in it because I have these magic moments with Kathryn that feel eternal. When Kat, my daughter, was born, I don't know why this was how it happened, but she was born. Two things happened. When I looked at her face, I recognized her. Recognized her in a way that blew my mind, and that I wasn't even thinking about or expecting. So I knew her already. And I looked at her feet, like her little tiny feet, right when she came out. And I grabbed one of her feet, and they were so perfect. Like her foot was so perfect and intricate and beautiful. And that makes me believe in eternal life, because it's just like a crazy miracle.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know what that looks like. I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea.
But I
kind of think that when we die, there's more.
Yeah.
But I think everything's happening at the same time. Like one of the wonderful things about getting amnesia was it was a concrete experience of time not being linear.
Yeah.
And so
you definitely still existed.
I definitely still existed, but time was not linear, and in that experience, I was like, oh, there's so much more than what we think we know. And there is an essence that I have inside of here, and time is not linear. And so the concept of an ending or death is based on the belief of only linear time, right?
Right.
And so, anyway, and I experienced that with Kathryn a lot, this idea that time is not linear. One of the things I said to her when we were first dating and I was falling in love with her, and I was sweet talking her because I was in this really lovey, and I whispered to her, time is not linear. And it sounds like the worst line, but I really was feeling it in that moment. She totally knew what I meant, you know what I mean? But it really, if it were in a movie, you'd be like, that guy is cheesy. and time's not linear. Come on. It just seems like a 15-year-old hippie line, but it really was what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And she felt it too.
Oh yeah, she felt it
Yeah.
too. She thought it was awesome.
That's great. That's great.
That is hilarious. It
Yeah.
would be a funny scene.
Yeah.
And it's better that it was authentic.
Yeah, yeah, it was authentic, but it shouldn't be represented anywhere else because it would just be seen as a joke.
We've been experiencing some of those moments where, like, if we wrote this, nobody would believe us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great though.
Those are the best.
Well, I have to say, in asking you guys about your love, it seems like it's really deep and awesome. So congratulations on
You
that.
know, we keep working on it.
Doesn't
Yeah.
mean
It's
we
not
don't
perfect
scream
love,
at
but
each other.
It's perfect
Yeah.
love as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that is what perfect love is like being able to sit in the shit with someone, like to be there
Yeah.
through it all.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
to see you and to love you and appreciate you and to know even when you're being a total asshole that's not.
That's not who you really are. What are
Yeah.
we doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't share that like vibrating story with a lot of people.
I'm glad you shared it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think that you're the only other people I've talked to who've had that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one. Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't talk about it a lot, and also I never.
I think we
expected
just
someone
stopped
to
talking
be
We
about it.
Googled it and shit. We couldn't find it.
There's
Really?
nobody's.
Not really, no.
Yeah.
We
Oh.
found this thing about twin flames, which are that someone wrote about twin flames. That it's about having that kind of experience and great loves. And
The thing
what
seems
are they about?
yogic. Twin flames.
Maybe it is. I have no idea. Kathryn found it, so I kind of read it secondhand.
Yeah.
But we couldn't find any like scholarly articles about it. So,
Right.
but we really
Maybe
looked.
we'll have to.
Because
write
how could
Yeah.
how could you scientifically write about that?
Yeah, I don't think you can.
that. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Buzzing or love buzz.
Love
Love
buzz.
buzz.
Yeah. Yeah. Magical moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Happy
to do it,
for
yeah.
Being on our
We appreciate
podcast.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our couch.
It was fun. I'm really glad I did it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
of
are
course.
too.
Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. Sorry it took so long to
Oh, pff,
Yeah.
we know you're busy. Got things to do.
It was just the end of the year, so I was like trying to get stuff done.
Yeah,
hear you, I hear you.
2019.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you being here.
Okay,
thanks
thanks.
for listening
Thank you.
and watching.
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Cool. All right.
See you next time.
Bye.
No, I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I'm just saying that you made me feel bad. Don't try making me a better deal. I'm done with you and I'm fine with that, and that's that.